references, no dating the show too much, right?
Okay,
Why not?
if you say so.
That's Joe's thing.
Yeah, that is my thing. Here, I'm making a banner for it. Band back together. There, I'll put the banner up. So, Sam, how was your recent trip?
Speaking of getting the band back together,
Yeah.
it was wonderful. I was in the Netherlands and Belgium. My one of my best friends is Dutch, so I go there every once in a while to see him. And he had a 50th birthday party. We had a big bash. It was a lot of fun. He had like 125 people there. I don't even know that many people, honestly.
It's like a P. Diddy party right there.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't associate him with
Okay.
P. Diddy right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. We spent a couple nights in Netherlands, and then we went over to Belgium and did some like beer drinking, and went to a Trappist monastery, which these monks.
Cool.
Yeah, there are only 5 apparently in the world, I think, and these monks make beer for to earn their keep inside the monastery and all this stuff, and earn a living. And we're not allowed inside the monastery, but of course we can partake in their beer. So we went to a cafe that was just outside the monastery, and it was some of the most amazing beer I've ever had in my life, actually.
Yeah, I've had some really good Trappist beer, like the Rochefort.
Yeah, Rochefort. Yeah, we had that too. Yeah,
nice. It's good.
And
stuff.
would a beer like Chimay be considered that too?
Yeah, Chimay's on that list too. Yeah, nice, dude. You guys know your Trappist beers.
Yeah, and those are kind of, they're dark, right? But they've got a real high alcoholic content.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
Yeah, they have like the blonde, double, and triple, and they get. And actually, in Brews, Belgium, they have the one of the breweries we went to, not a Trappist monastery, but one of the breweries we went to is very, very old. And instead of, when they grew too big for their location, instead of moving and losing all that history, they built something called the beer pipeline underneath the entire city to a conditioning and bottling facility like 3 kilometers away. Wow. So it's insane, but they push the beer through this pipeline and it goes to the other place. And I couldn't even believe what I was hearing, but it was pretty amazing.
Did you go to Bruges, Belgium?
Yes. Yeah.
That was hard for me to say because I was there. We, when we took our trip to Amsterdam, that was one of our side trips. And we spent 2 nights there, I think 3 nights.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, the architecture is just incredible. And we went out the tower in the center of Bruges. And if you guys have ever, I saw it right before I left. There's a great movie called In Bruges with Colin Farrell.
Exactly. We watched that after the fact.
Yeah. And it cracked me up when I was there because there's some funny scenes in that movie. But
and there's a Michelangelo something or other in one of those chapels, a very famous piece.
I don't think I saw it. Like, we only had a day and a half in Bruges.
You're a beer drinker, Sam. That's why.
It's more about a beer, partaking in beer. And
now where is Duvel? Duvel, that's another, or Duvet or Duvel. No, Duvet
I don't know where.
A couch. Yeah. or a bed. Duvel, right? That's another.
I don't think they're Trappist, but they're a Belgian beer, I believe. I can see Jerry looking it up right now, but
no. Yeah. I'm answering a client email here.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it was wonderful. The only thing is, like, I didn't take any beer back because to check my bag was like $80, and I was like, just to buy like a 6-pack of beer and bring it back. So I got some at duty free, but it wasn't the same as as the ones at a couple of the Trappist monasteries.
Maybe they'll extend that pipeline like under the Atlantic Ocean, right to
That's quite a feat.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, like the Oompa Loompas in the chocolate river, that kind of thing.
Nice, the beer river.
Build that in, beer river.
Yeah.
Although it might turn flat after a while. That would be the problem with that kind of plan.
Yeah, well, that was the interesting thing about this beer pipeline is that's what the concern was. They actually condition it. It's non-carbonated. So when they send it, it's non-carbonated, and they condition it at the other side of town.
Okay.
So I was learning a hell of a lot.
Conditioning, so they like add carbonation? I kind of thought that was part of like the brewing process or something.
Well, it is part of the brewing process, but what they send over isn't done yet. So like they do that conditioning part and everything to, I don't know, to give it that carbonation later on in the process.
I see.
It's pretty fascinating. Yeah.
Now, if I remember,
level,
I just have to interrupt you. So I need to work out logistics here. So I remember from Amsterdam to Bruges, it was not like an hour away. It was a fairly long car ride. So how'd you get over there? What happened?
We did a train ride actually from Amsterdam to Brussels. And we stayed in Brussels for just like a day. Didn't do a whole lot there because I had a very short trip. So then we took a train ride from Brussels to Bruges, and that was only an hour.
Very nice.
And to get to the monastery, we actually had to rent a car, which I kind of like doing in Europe, just getting a car and seeing what it's like driving in different countries. So we cruised out to the monastery in a car, and then we brought it back the same day. And we just kind of dropped it off, walked back to the city. It was a pretty like quick trip, but tried to squeeze in everything that we could to have some fun and drink some beer.
Nice.
Very nice.
Now, and Sam, did you time your return for the Sequoia release? Like, did you make it a point to get back stateside for this?
Yeah, let's keep it technical, shall we? No, I totally didn't. I wouldn't have cared if it got released somewhere else. Nice. Not at all. But because we're hopefully not releasing on day one, which I'm sure we'll talk about on this show. Yeah. One last little tidbit, though, on a technical level, I was mentioning pre-show, I had no Wi-Fi for one of my flights. They were and no in-flight entertainment. Yeah, but luckily they sent us an email, so I downloaded a couple things before the flight. But I was like, man, imagine just sitting there like Putty from Seinfeld, just like doing nothing for I don't know a few hours on the plane.
Yeah, there's a name for that now. People are doing that like on purpose, they're like staring at the in-flight like progress screen, like and that's the only thing you do during the whole flight, which it's like I don't know if that's
believe it or not, it's called raw dogging.
Yes, I've heard. Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, it's like at least read a book, like do something with your time, or like meditate, but like just staring at the screen in front of you, I don't know if that counts as like quality time or meditation or anything.
I don't know what that accomplishes. Someone says like I did it, and it's like, so what? Like what did you do really? Right.
I guess it's better than like creating a disturbance, like if that's the alternative, but no, that's a tough one. At least you got to download some content. I watched a movie on a recent flight, Civil War, about like it kind of follows like press photographers around the country as like our country or the United States are kind of divided into different factions. You don't really know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and you just kind of watch what might happen in that kind of end game scenario there. And it was interesting, but some of these movies on planes, you wonder why they include them, anything, I don't know, anything with like violence and things. And I just wonder about some of the people around me that are like overseeing the movie that I'm watching. It's just not always a good scene. But what do you watch on your laptop or iPad, or what's your?
I bring an iPad. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't use an iPad much. I was kind of, but I just don't have a big need for it. But on a plane, I like taking that out as opposed to a computer for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I mean, with the laptop, nice 15-inch, MacBook Air, and the screen just stays open. Like I don't have to worry about the thing falling down like with an iPad, So I don't have a current iPad that I use. So that's my Mac is my entertainment. Usually it's for work if I have Wi-Fi, but
Plus, if you're sitting in coach, like sometimes when that person rests that seat back and reclines, I almost crushed one of my computers one time. Like, it got caught right in there, and I like had to hold it. And I'm like, wait, I thought it was going to crack my screen. So that's a little, depending on the size of your screen, of course. But
yeah, definitely concerning.
Yeah.
So speaking of Sequoia, I mean, as we record, I know Jerry doesn't like when I mention, what month it is or whatever, but let's just suffice it to say that Sequoia has just been released. And so I'm curious how you guys are experiencing, the management side of Sequoia, or, blocking Sequoia, deploying Sequoia, like those kinds of things. Any experience yet that you guys want to share?
Sam, what are the kids over in the Jam Camp doing? Jam Camp.
Jam Camp.
Well, I guess on the MDM side with declarative device management software updates, it's a little bit easier now as long as they're on Sonoma to push out Sequoia if you want to. The thing about the What the heck was I going to say now? Your little banner threw me off there.
Let me just Joe's being quippy on the YouTube, folks. So if you're wondering what we spontaneously laugh about, it's usually some banner that flashes up there. So we implore you to come and like our video on YouTube.
Just so you can laugh at the Jamf Camp.
All the inside jokes.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, but I mean, like we're not. I don't know. I mean, I'm not feeling like Sequoia's in terms of the features, yes, but like the OS, it doesn't seem terribly detrimental if someone were to deploy it. So I'm not really like being that restrictive right now. How about you guys?
I honestly haven't done much testing yet. I know Jerry said, pretty uneventful, like upgrading of your own machine. Even was that the public beta, Jerry, that you're running, or the
I initially started the public beta and then got tired of that because I wanted the AI features. So I'm on the 0.1 release, and I just did another one right before the show, and everything is, like you said, is pretty inconsequential. No showstoppers. Cool. Everything's been really solid. So speaking for myself, I had one Nana that I support, and
she's part of your beta group. That's
part of my. She is now my beta, my canary in the coal mine.
Whoa.
Nice.
Yeah, I encourage you to watch the video, folks, because while I'm speaking, Sam's doing distracting things on his own video.
Sam seems to be like back in flight, like somewhere outside of the like left wing of the aircraft at this point. I don't know, the sky in the background. What are you doing there, Sam?
I turned off center stage because my head is gigantic when it's on.
Well, you do have a big head. Yeah,
I do have a giant head, so that
like the guy from.
But now I'm too low.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't mind me while we're talking here.
So you were saying Nana's your beta tester, and
yeah. So just 2 days ago, she had emailed me and said, my phone is crazy, and I see all this old stuff in my inbox, and we've gone through this a million times on site, remotely. So I knew that the iPhone screen sharing would be a game changer for her.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I've been running the test versions of this. I feel pretty good about the software. And so if you want to do this, I could do this for you remotely. I can install it on your Mac, and you can update your iPhone, and we'll schedule a session and we'll see what's going on with your iPhone. So we haven't done part 2 yet, but that's how I ended up getting a test. And so I created a unique policy and strategy for Sequoia, and it's going.
Nice.
Can I just say that I really liked your Nana impersonation, Jerry? It was pretty spot on.
Thank you. There's more voices to come, so just stay tuned.
That's right. Yeah.
The only thing was there was a terms in the iCloud agreement that needs the user to actually check on site. So I couldn't do it with live desktop in Attitude, and I couldn't do it with the integrated Splashtop. Either way didn't allow me to click the agree to the terms and just okay. But you don't have to do anything else beyond that. But and that doesn't preclude you from using the machine. It's just something, I saw a little badge there and I was like, what's that? And that's what it was, just accepting the new terms for iCloud.
I see.
So I'm sure she'll figure it out.
Yeah. So it's under Apple account in system settings. And so you're right. It's not going to block you from proceeding with the upgrade or getting back into the desktop, which is good. But I just find it so surprising that they added this, they're not allowing a synthetic click on that screen. I mean, no, non-synthetic humans ever read that anyway, as we all know. Like, I mean, so, is this really good legal cover for Apple? Like, well, we don't allow computers to click it. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, who's really reading that? Everyone knows no one's reading that, right?
Right.
Like, what's the difference? Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. So, and Jerry, just a quick question. So did you deploy Sequoia using like MDM software updates or DDM or the public software download, or just like live desktop into the machine and using system settings to pull it up?
Okay. So full disclosure here. When we had Ben Greiner on the show a couple shows ago, and you guys are talking in acronyms. I mean, I'm a simple caveman, Joe and Sam, and you know, I don't even understand half the stuff you guys are talking about on the show most of the time. So I don't really know what the correct answer is. I know I went into Adigy and I did that thing where I go to updates and I pushed it out that way.
Okay.
What is
so
that
that's
called?
MDM software updates is what I would call that. And by the way, I'm sure there's a lot of our listeners just like you who hear all these acronyms flying by. You know, maybe they're not in Adigy or they're not using MDM and, you know, don't have experience with this stuff. But
yeah, don't feel bad, folks.
Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
So I want to talk about this because, so, you know, my longtime listeners of the show, you guys know, I'm not a like 0.0 kind of guy. Typically, I'll probably go to 0.0 on my own Mac just to dive in a little bit more headfirst than usual this time around. But I'm certainly not going to start recommending it to clients yet and pushing it out. So instead, we're blocking it. You know, and I think there's really two schools of thought. There's the traditional method of like, well, anybody would be crazy to allow it on day zero. You know, everyone blocks it until 0.3. These days, it's more like maybe 50-50. I think a lot of our colleagues out there are starting to say, you know, come on, like get on board. Apple clearly is like ready for us to install this. This is how you get some of the new management features. There's a lot of benefits to us and to the client. Like the name of the game is, you know, get on board sooner than later. So let's stop being overly cautious and have a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around these new OS releases. And I'm getting that. I'm moving in that direction.
Yeah.
But also you want to test in your environment. You want to have Nana, your beta tester, you know, run the latest OS and see how she likes it. You want to, in all seriousness, test it with like your users who have some kind of standard setup at your major clients. Like, is it going to break compatibility with Adobe Creative Cloud or Microsoft Office or some of the more obscure apps that are out there? And Jerry, you're shaking your head. So you've tested these apps and so far so good in your case.
Everything works. Zoom works.
Great.
You know,
Teams works.
Mm-hmm. I kind of have a feeling about this too. Like that used to be my mode of operation is like, wait for a few point updates. What if someone didn't update their software? And
right.
I kind of feel these days, like, first of all, they feel like updates these days. Like it's just a change in your background and some additional features. So I'm feeling less shaky and the installs don't really go south at a level that they used to. And then I also feel like with all the software being cloud-based these days, it's really, and subscription-based, it's really not like, oh my God, I got to go to get a new CD and install this version of Adobe. I feel like it's a little less frightening, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, and the assumption should be that these vendors are ready, especially, you know, Adobe, Microsoft. I mean, is there anybody bigger than them? You know, Google doesn't really have desktop software, but like, I mean, they do actually have some. But what are some of the other major vendors that like, you know, come to mind? They should all be on board, right?
Well, I mean, you could possibly see some sort of weirdness with, let's say, Intuit software like QuickBooks. Not that I experienced that because I'm running QuickBooks 2022, and that worked fine. There was no, but you know, I think important applications for people where they've got a really small development team. And we all know that Intuit, you know, has a real small development team for anything that's not cloud-based. And also like maybe somebody who's running a CAD program, one of your real specialty clients, somebody who's doing, you know, what's the other creative tool that we talk about for page layout that we were surprised that they're still in business?
Oh, Quark Express.
Yeah. So these are the, you know, ones you might want to look out for.
Sure.
In terms of just like pushing the button and having your client update, you know, just those edge cases.
Yeah, that's very fair. I mean, still like my default mode is, you know, day zero and like maybe until the 0.1 or even 0.2 to just block to start with. And then like, let me be involved for the upgrade, at least for those, you know, company clients. And so how to block Sequoia? Well, you know, again, we're an Adigy company, Adigy shop. So we use the Adigy blocker to block Sequoia. You know, that was available on day zero or before. In addition to that, for the last couple of macOS versions, we've needed, of course, a deferral profile. So this is a, you know, MDM restrictions profile you create inside of Adigy or custom create or whatever, and then deploy it migrate to your various devices, and you can choose how long to defer the major upgrades from showing on the Mac or being automatically deployed on the Mac using, the software update mechanism. Because it used to be that the OS would require the full app download. I mean, this, back in the day, it was a CD, right? Like Sam said, then it was an app download from the App Store, and that's what the blocker can block. The blocker says, if this app is running, kill it. If this thing is downloaded, destroy it, that kind of thing. So that still works for the app, but now we have this mechanism. I guess if you're running, I believe, like Monterey, Ventura, or Sonoma, you can upgrade to Sequoia, like Sam also said, as if it's an update right inside of the software update preference. They call it an upgrade there, which is accurate, but it's deployed as if it's an update. And so to block that method, you have to use an MDM restrictions profile, and you set how long you want to defer major upgrades. So that's fine. Those two methods are very easy. You just click a button and it deploys to all your policies, and it's great. However, as you also know, a lot of my clients are behind the latest because, we don't actively encourage them like you have to upgrade to the latest and greatest. If they're running Ventura or, even Monterey up to a certain point a number of months ago when it was still supported, we might not be pushing them to upgrade to Sonoma at that point. So some of my clients are running, let's say Ventura, 13.6.9 as of yesterday or whatever. And I want to get them up to Sonoma still before we get to Sequoia. This may be an edge case for the reasons I mentioned. Apple really wants you to go to the latest and greatest. Why are you upgrading, quote unquote, to like the old thing that it's old news and no one cares about? Yeah. So the trouble here is that if I want to use MDM, let's say, to deploy 14.7 Sonoma, if I'm coming from 13 or 12, that's considered a major upgrade. And 14.7 was just released same day as Sequoia, which is also kind of interesting that they were able to actually push out like a bunch of updates on the same day. You got to hand it to Apple for rolling that out, not having any major things go sideways. But because that just came out, that's considered a major upgrade. That's less than my 30-day deferral policy. So I can't use MDM to actually deploy 14.7 now. So how do you get a client to Sonoma today? Using the built-in methods. Well, in theory, I should be able to deploy 14.6.1 via MDM updates. In Adigy, you'd go to Go Live updates, like Jerry said, and you select your 14.6.1 update that's listed. If you have to, you toggle off Show Latest, and it shows you the previous ones as well. So anyway, you see the 14.6.1, and you can click the button to install. I forget what the standard method is, download and or install, I think is what it's listed as. Yeah, Sam, do you know so. What is like the MDM way of saying, is that like install later? Like what's the kind of like MDM command?
I think scheduled install is I believe.
Right. Which like downloads it and it'll like prompt the user, I think, right?
Yeah,
like
through the normal notifications methods.
Right. So to me, that's kind of the easiest method to just, click a button and like let it happen on its own pretty much. Or maybe if I have to use Go Live to get in and just click the button. So I've had mixed results with that for some reason. So that works in some cases, doesn't always work. So the other method, the reliable method I found, is just to use the Adigy public software download of 14.6.1. You just click the button to deploy that. And then you just have to click the prompt on screen. It's a custom dialog box, and you just click that. It prepares the install and kicks it off and restarts, and you're good to go. So there's a way to do it. Why am I bothering with all this? I'm asking myself, and you may be asking me too. I figure, so 14 dot whatever has been very reliable with MDM, as distinct from like certainly, Monterey or even Ventura to some degree, although Ventura is definitely better than Monterey. So I want my clients to be on Sonoma, which is going to continue to get security updates until I'm ready to deploy Sequoia. And when I'm ready to deploy Sequoia, I think it'll make it much easier to have done these steps, to be only 1 point version behind, where I can rely on MDM software updates or DDM software updates, which I haven't yet really played with, but I understand that might give me some better options for doing this. So that's kind of my method of blocking Sequoia and still deploying Sonoma. Maybe it's an edge case, but let me know your experiences out there if you hear the show.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, there are a few different methods to block and or install it. So it's, there are some that are the management tool kind of has their own baked in facility for, and there are others that come through Apple's like MDM, DDM sort of thing. And I
Right.
think you got to choose your poison in those situations. But yeah, I think overall, like I said earlier, I'm feeling pretty safe. Like I definitely have changed my tune for sure over the last few years. But
Yeah,
you know what? I
same.
actually want to throw something else out there that I forgot to actually include in my show notes, and I just thought about while we were talking, is an article by the Eclectic Light Company, and
yeah.
it says Apple has stopped all XProtect updates for macOS Sonoma and earlier.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
got to
can't
be a
be.
mistake. Like,
Yeah, right. It has to be. It has to be.
I mean, but it's crazy that it actually. I mean,
That,
I'll put the article in our show notes, but it's kind of interesting to see.
that is accurate as of today. Like
Yeah.
that is the truth. And like you said, it has to be a mistake. I mean, it can't, I can't imagine they're going to be like, yeah, sorry, you're out of luck. Hope nothing happens, cause it's like,
Better
also
upgrade.
like, right. That's XProtect also. Like they're still doing point releases as far as we know. Like they just released, 14.7 and 13.7. So those are security updates. I don't know why they would like stop with XProtect, and still do like bug fixes. And I don't know. I hope they don't stop doing bug fixes if they need to, right? If there's security vulnerabilities.
Sounds like a whoopsie, but we'll see.
Yeah, most likely. Well, so Sam, I'm also trending that direction. Jerry's been leading that charge for years now with just like, let's just, let it ride, just install, upgrade, it'll be fine. And, I mean, Jerry, I don't think you've ever regretted doing that, have you? Like, I mean, you've never come back to us and said,
and nor have I really lost much sleep over what iterations of the software people are on in Adigy. I still have a few Monterey users, lots of Ventura, lots of Sonoma. And I say lots, I'm talking about, not a huge installed base. And, I can't even get people to restart their computer. So how the hell am I going to get them to update? And I say that as a joke, but I'm dead serious. Yeah. So if you're not going to worry about it, I'm not going to worry about it, And I understand, Joe, you're kind of like, you're remote, right? And you're looking to ring the cash register. And I can appreciate that. So the more engagement that you have with your clients, the more you can do that. And you're also you're not doing them a disservice. You're doing them a service because they are fully updated and you're very vigilant about that. But I am not vigilant. I am lackadaisical. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a friend of the show take a look at my Adigy portal tomorrow. Nice. And, just sort of give it a once over and say like, because I'm not like you, Joe. And I'm for those listeners who don't have Adigy, apologies here. We will try to move on in a moment. But, Joe, you're more of a Ross Matsuda. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Terrific.
And I'm honored to be associated with
power user, and I'm like, I'm Barney Rubble at the gas station. So, nice. I mean, I know how to do stuff and nobody gets in trouble. Nobody gets hurt, and I don't think I've ever gotten to a situation in regards directly to updates where like this was your initial question, where somebody got hurt and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do a truck roll and I got to help Peggy Sue, with her computer that I broke.
Yeah.
So,
so my perspective as I was sharing is kind of like, I feel a responsibility to keeping people up to date. I mean, certainly like as of now, Monterey is not supported by Apple. Like it's just, we know that it didn't get an update last time around, nor this time around. And, and that seems to be the trend is like, Apple says they support like the current Mac OS and 2 versions prior. And then like a few months before the new OS, they're kind of like, well, we're close to the new Mac OS. So it hasn't quite been 2 years, whatever, 3 years, but okay, it's over. And so, we see the writing on the wall. Like you're not going to keep running the older Mac OS that's, N-4 at this point. It's just not sustainable, or N-3 or whatever it is. So I feel a responsibility to make sure those people know that it's time to upgrade to whatever the most current version is that their machine will support, because it may not support going to Sequoia or even Sonoma at this point. So there's some people that may need to upgrade to Ventura just to like continue to get, in theory, the security updates and bug fixes.
Right.
At least through now. I mean, we don't know if it'll continue. So now, but to your point, Jerry, like I'm not going to lose sleep over it if I've notified them and if I've offered them solutions, like we can push it out for you. You can go here and update, you know, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but my job is to notify them and maybe follow up a couple times. So, you know, that's what I have been doing. And again, like I said, I'm moving more toward this trend of like, let's go to the latest and greatest. And what are some of the reasons to do that? Jerry brought up the iPhone mirroring option. I mean, that's a great example.
cool.
It's like, because I'm searching myself, like, why would you use Nana as all the people to, you know, be your first Sequoia like remote deployment? But yes, iPhone mirroring. How great is that? Have you played with that, Sam, at all?
Oh yeah, I mean today I was just playing with it a ton because it's on my daily driver now. And once I got it set up, I realized that I enabled notifications, and I just didn't think of. I thought that was like, oh, that's for iPhone mirroring or something, but I didn't think of it as, oh, all my notifications from my phone are going to start to show up here. And then I was like, oh, I got a message from somebody. So in Instagram, so I tapped it. iPhone showed up on my computer screen. I typed my reply, and I was like, this is freaking cool.
That's so slick, man.
Yeah.
Like Apple's the only company that could possibly pull that off.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You know,
like, yeah,
that's fantastic. And people complain, you know, oh, there's lock in with Apple. Like, you know, you buy one device, then they want you to buy all these other devices, and like, you know, why don't they support this other thing on Android and whatever, you know. I don't blame them for that. Like they have control over the iPhone and the Mac, and they can release a feature like iPhone mirroring and have it just work on day one. It's very well thought out. The notifications bubble up to Notification Center on your Mac. They don't show as like, here's a picture of your iPhone screen with the notifications. They show as native notifications.
Right.
And like you said, you click it and you get that app on the iPhone. Like it's just a genius solution, and it's secure. It's reliable. It's fast. Like there's no other company that could possibly pull that off right now. There just isn't. Nobody has the same level of, you know, deployment across multiple devices like that.
It's very slick. On the phone side, Jerry, have you been using like send later at all in messages or anything like that? Because I think that's my favorite feature on iOS.
Yeah.
In messages, the message I sent to you guys this morning, I didn't trigger it till 9 o'clock this morning Eastern time.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's
I'm
7
so
a.m. for me, but that's fine. That's okay.
I'm so considerate. The iPhone mirroring,
Jerry, I don't even set an alarm anymore. I just wait for your text.
iPhone mirroring, I haven't used it a lot. It's great. One of the things is like Instagram, even if you put the Instagram app on your on your Mac, it doesn't have the same functionality. It doesn't quite behave the same way. You can't see comments. So you can just bounce right over to the phone, do your Instagram stuff, and just bounce right back to your Mac. And you can copy and paste seamlessly back and forth. And that's, of course, you would expect that to happen, but that's really nice as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you said, you expect it to happen. It's so intuitive that there's no training. It's just like, do you want to use this? Great. Okay. There's no like, here's a video about how to do everything. It's just like very obvious, you know? And then,
it's a little tricky to get back to the home screen. Sam will tell you, if you're in an app, you have to move your mouse up to the very top of the window of this, right to here. And then another bar pops up. And you get a little matrix symbol, right? Am I thinking that's correct?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I didn't actually think about it too much, but...
Yeah, you have to poke around a little bit. But once you do it one or two times, you know, it's a learned behavior.
I mean, it's super useful for us. This was on my list of reasons to upgrade. You know, obviously, like, I'm looking forward to being able to support people way more efficiently. Because right now it's like... You know, you're talking them through it, and you know the screens, even if you have everything memorized, you're telling them where to go, and they're... You know, suddenly you realize like they're not on that screen. And then, you know, now, okay, let's start over. Like, what are you seeing? Okay. All right. Tap the thing in the upper left that says, you know, folders or whatever. And it's just like, you know, it gets super confusing. Yeah. It doesn't go well. And it's inefficient. And it's a mental struggle for me to like try to picture their phone in my head. You know, now I can just look on screen and there it is. So
And just to tackle a thing that comes up quite frequently, like with clients where they're not getting their SMS messages on their Mac. And they're like, I got this message. There's a voice, Sam. I got this message on my phone, but I'm not seeing it on my Mac. Right. And it's because it's come in, and more hospitals and medical providers are using SMS. And so that's something that they really need and really want. And to just take them through those simple steps of turning that on in the iPhone, because that's where you have to do it. It's,
Right.
you could do it in 2 seconds and move on with your day instead of
Yep.
having a whole
And you're telling
support
them,
call.
yeah, tap send and receive, and they're looking at send read receipts, and it's like, nope, scroll up,
Nope, wrong one.
or it's like, or is iMessage turned on? Yeah, and then they tap it. Okay, now it's turned off. No, I was just checking to see, was it turned on? Now we're fixing problems that they're creating as you're guiding them. So it's just, yeah, I'm so looking forward. So that's going to be one of the reasons that I'm going to upgrade sooner than later and start to deploy to clients sooner than later as well. And Sam, you mentioned the other one, send later. Scheduled messages does not require the sending device to be online at that scheduled time. It actually uses Apple's servers. I didn't realize that to
cool.
like hold the message and send it later. Emoji reactions, I've seen both of you guys use already. The new tap back. So, new emojis also, that's always like a motivator for people. They're looking for, new pictures they can send their friends and stuff like that. So these are all really important things. But the one of the major ones that we haven't touched on yet is the Passwords app. The native Passwords app. That is going to be huge for residential clients and probably even some very small businesses, I would say. Do you see, informally, like off the record, do you see business clients, very small business clients, using iCloud in kind of like, slightly, using it for business, basically? Like, you might have the owner, share a calendar through iCloud, like this kind of thing with employees who then have their own iClouds. And it's not the right way to do that, but some people are doing it that way. I could see people sharing passwords in the same way, potentially, even in business.
For a small business like that, where like a bigger infrastructure is not needed, those things work well within that, like a few people in the company, they don't need to pay for another tool.
Right. My only concern is that I think the password sharing requires family sharing still. Is that accurate?
Oh, you might be right about that. Yeah. But I thought, I think, I don't know, man. Like I'm not moving away from 1Password myself.
No, same.
But I see some smaller entities using what probably they shouldn't be, but using family, sharing features.
Right.
I've definitely come across it. So it's like, well, if you're going to do that, might as well do passwords.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, the amount of effort it would be to like unwind that and implement, proper business solutions for like a 5-person company. Sometimes if it's very informal, like run, they're all friends kind of thing. Like maybe it's not a big concern. So,
or even true mom and pop, like where they are family.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Even better, but yeah. So, and obviously a lot of my clients are residential. And so Passwords app is going to be great for them. People are starting to get the hang of like knowing where to look for passwords. We see a lot of value in just guiding them to settings, passwords, or system settings, passwords, to get comfortable with that. But having it be its own app, that's a no-brainer. I'm very happy about that. So, that's huge. What about, downsides? I see like, now there's a few more steps to open unsigned, non-notarized apps. That's not that common for my clients. There's maybe a couple of examples here and there. That's fine. Who I don't really care if because like it'll work. Like once you go through those steps, it'll just work until you maybe need to update the app, I guess. What about this whole screen capture thing? Have you guys, seen that in practice much? Like where apps, screen capture apps can only be allowed to record the screen for up to a month, and then you have to like reauthorize them?
Yeah, but I saw, because that happened with Teams with me today. I saw there was a secondary option. I thought it was to not ask. I got to check now, but I did see the month warning. Long story short.
You can manage that with MDM though, right? Or no? Like,
you should be able to
manage the setting to allow them to not to record the screen, but to allow that feature to like not have an expiration date, I guess. Is that?
Well, actually, I don't know that you can, now that I think about it, because that is one of those privacy things all over again. And I was looking at some of the documentation. I don't think I saw that on MDM. I got to look again now.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd add something like that to just be able to say, these apps are allowed to like, if you grant them access, they just have access, not like it expires after a month. So does this affect like Splashtop unattended access, for example? Is it having?
It has to, yeah. I mean, all those tools that use that same like let standard users allow screen recording and things like that. That's all like the similar stuff.
Okay.
I feel like Jerry is like stewing right now because the whole show is dated. He's just sitting there, just all
No,
mad.
this is, I'm like I said, I'm a simple caveman, and this is all,
Just
this
making
is all
sure. Just
stuff
making sure.
that's
there's
above
no,
my pay grade. No, I don't. To interject, I don't think that applies to Splash Top. But I have no reason to say why that is or why that isn't. So I just, I feel like I'm not a contributor here, but
yeah, no, I mean, I have to assume
I can tell
that
you more about Belgium. We went to Ghent. Did you go to Ghent?
I bailed out before Ghent and Antwerp, but sorry,
All right,
Joe.
we'll talk
No,
about
no.
that. Yeah, sorry, Joe. I just,
No, I'm searching for Splash Top, info right now. Well, my question is like, will they? So I think this, like to your point, Sam, it's about the old API, I guess, versus the like current way of using the like private window picker or something to select the window. These are apps that have access to the whole screen, like you'd want for a remote support tool like Splashtop. So I'm just
Right.
wondering if there's like an API they can get on board with that, is not affected by this. So this is unclear. These are more questions than answers, but that's definitely a thing that's going to affect us on day one, with clients, if you rely on those kinds of tools. As long as it doesn't affect Adigy Live Desktop, I think I'm pretty safe.
That's killer. Live Desktop is awesome. So
yeah, it really is. It's super. I use it every single day, throughout the day. So okay, what about I guess there's one more positive thing that was hiking directions and routes in maps. I love hiking. I think avid hikers are probably going to be using All Trails or Gaia GPS.
I love All Trails. Yeah.
Same. That's where I track all my hikes pretty much. But I think this will make hiking more accessible to more people. It's like if it's there, they're going to use it, and maybe it gets people into hiking. So I think this is like a Tim Cook, health kind of win, of a feature. So I mean, I think again it'll bubble up hiking to the surface for more people probably.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the plus the way All Trails works is a lot of times you're in an area that you're not necessarily familiar with. If you're doing planning at home, you could do it on a map, and then you could figure, okay, we're going to go to upstate Connecticut, and that's where we're going to go. We're going to pick this particular trail. But my wife and I, more often than not, will be in a particular area after doing some sort of an errand, and we'll be like, oh, right, maybe there's a quick hike around here. That's where All Trails can just like pull in the GPS data. And I know you could probably get that from the Apple Maps, but it may not draw you in the same way that the All Trails is set up to do. So, I mean, it's better than not having it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan of All Trails as well. I think it's like $10 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, for the offline maps and things.
Yeah.
You also have you used the preview thing where it kind of like you do like a fly through of the actual hike.
Really?
It's pretty neat, like on the map, like in 3D.
That's cool.
And I don't know if it's maybe just certain. I don't know if it's available everywhere, but yeah, I've seen that a few times, and it's pretty neat. All Trails is great too for reviews. Like you can look for a hike and you can say like, show me hikes where people mention wildflowers, and then you can like search and you can see, oh, this review was from last week and people are saying the wildflowers are popping off. Like now's a great time to do this hike, and so you get some like up to date info as well, which is great. But yeah, but kudos to Apple for adding stuff like that in, 'cause again, I think it's a win for health in general.
Agreed. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So as we wrap up this part of the show, I think we'll save like a talk about Apple Intelligence maybe for the next show, a little bit more about Adigy potentially. And I know, Sam, you have a story that probably fits here. And then I also want to ask you, maybe put you on the spot for next show, if we do a patron episode, to follow up on a show we discussed. We discussed some of the like your success with pitching clients and with some of the new plans you're offering and new rates and things like that. And you said you might be willing to share some of the sort of percentage increase on those first kind of 3 or 4 clients who signed on and agreed to the new shows. So this is a tease. This is supposed to get you ready so I don't put you fully on the spot in that show, and also a tease for the public to maybe check out the patron-only shows where we talk a little bit more about the numbers and the behind-the-scenes kind of structuring some of the wording of the pitches and negotiations and, again, plans and rates and things that go into these shows. So I'm going to ask you about that next time, and I'm going to tease a few more things about our recent patron-only episode. But Sam, you had a story for this show that I think you wanted to share coming back from your vacation.
Well, Yeah, I guess I can throw it in here, but basically, it was like 2 days after I got back, I guess. So we've had this client that's been teetering on like, I don't know where they're going to land. They were always late paying us and all this other stuff. And then Matt just got a text instead of an email from them. And they were just like, hey, just wanted to let you know, they shut their doors and they fired everybody. So I don't have a job anymore. It was nice working with you. I was like, whoa, like just like they just let everyone go and just close the doors kind of a situation. No warning, nothing, which is pretty freaking awful, I have to say. But that happened.
Was that one of your was that one of your fancy pants New York City businesses, or did this happen somewhere in the wilds?
No, this is in Westchester, actually.
Okay, all right.
A small company that we've been working with for years, and they always had this guy that was internal that always kind of wanted to have his hands in everything and really wouldn't let us do things without his approval. And he was very old school. He was always like, I used to be an IT manager. And I'm like, that's never a good sign. Like, 20 years ago, maybe you were an IT manager. But anyway, so he left like a few weeks ago, and that should have been the sign that things were going south. But can you imagine like working for a company and they just close the door, like no warning, nothing, just like bye. Isn't that horrible?
That's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like messed up.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes motivations are dictated by finance. And sometimes behind the scenes, you may just have to draw your line in the sand and stop the bleeding immediately.
Well, they owed us money. I can tell you that.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah. That's tough, man. Ugh.
We just did an on-site too. So there was a chunk of change there. And then the last month of our services.
How did they let you come in for an on-site and then shut the door like weeks later? I mean, that's just...
Here's something interesting. They already owed us 2 months of money. So we said, we're not coming in until you pay us, until you come up to speed.
Good for you.
And so they said, and there was a lot of back and forth. And finally, they're like, we have a check on the desk if you come in. So he came in. My guy, Sammy, came in and he picked up the check was the first thing he did.
You know what I'd do? I'd pick up the check and leave. I would leave right after. I'd be like, when it clears, I'll be back.
Yeah, has that check has that check cleared.
But thankfully, that check cleared. It did clear.
Wonderful.
That's lucky, man. I mean, there's no guarantee there. Ugh.
So
I got stuck in the early days. It still hurts. It still burns. I got stuck with, a company went out of business, and then I took them small claims for the money. I'm sure I've shared this story before as often as the Mophie story, Jerry, but it still stings, right? You don't forget those clients who screw you. And then they declared bankruptcy. And so they didn't have to pay me. And it was just, I couldn't even chase them personally because they were incorporated. So it was those kinds of things. And I think I've learned over the years, I mean, pretty much everybody's on credit card payment now, like with automat. I just bill them out. I send them the paid invoice. So have you, and maybe we talk more on the patron show, Sam, but like, have you thought about changing any of these business practices on that? Or Jerry?
Oh yeah. We can talk about this on Patreon, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that because there's something to that we were trying to get them on as well. But to be continued, as I also have to now apparently work my numbers to get you percentages. I'm going to have to take out my calculator.
Please, yeah. You got 10 minutes before the next show starts. So hopefully you can.
I have something really quick to share for all the listeners out there and for you boys at home and gals at home. So we never talked about this on the show, and it's kind of an edge case. So I had a client who left his computer on his car and drove off. He was dealing with his dad. His dad was having issues where he didn't want his dad driving, and his dad disappeared. And then he found his dad, but the computer was on top of the car, and he was driving here and driving there. So he didn't know where it was, right? So he's a longtime Apple user, and so he locks it down, right? He designates it as lost. Mm-hmm. So he finds it. There's details to that, but he finds the computer. So he calls me up. And I said, well, let's see if we can do. So I met him at his office, and the screen was shot, but we were able to connect it to an HDMI large monitor, and we turned it on, and it was in the recovery screen, and we logged into Find Me, and there it was, and it kind of knew it was in where it was in the particular location in Connecticut. And find me.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it
takes.
And we couldn't unlock it.
Oh.
We would give it the password and it would not unlock. So so it was probably damage with the logic board that caused this not to go through that step. That's the only thing I can surmise. But it is an edge case because had he not locked it, there would have been a chance that we could have gotten the data and not had to recover it from Backblaze.
Interesting.
Oh, I see.
Well, locking it's probably still the right move, right? I mean, before you know otherwise. Yeah.
But let's say you didn't have Backblaze. Let's say you didn't have a wonderful tech like myself, in your back pocket. What would happen then? Then the guy was like completely SOL because we couldn't unlock the device.
But to your point, this was an edge case, right? So
yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, right, but people damage and lose their computers all day long, and all I'm saying is for you listeners at home, and for us here, it's a knee-jerk reaction to want to go lock it down, and I understand all the reasons why you would probably do that, but it cuts both ways because it could have potentially not been as problematic. So the good news was, I've got a Mac Mini server in Iraq and I use the Backblaze downloader, and he had I can tell you exactly what he had. He had about 340 gigs of data.
Wow.
And so I just let that thing cook, downloaded it from Backblaze, and it was really quite fast. So we have a gigabit down here, like 1.2. So it, took hours, but not days. And then what I did was I put it on a drive. Now I'm one of those people, I like stay away from the mentality of, this is a gaming drive or this, that. It's a gaming. It's gaming. It's for gamers. But this Western Digital 2 terabyte P40, I put it in the chat, the link, so you guys could click on it, the Amazon link. This thing is pretty amazing. You ready for this? So it does, its transfer rate is, I'm actually looking at the specs here, is fast. It's, help me out, guys. Do you see this? Here, 2,000, it's megabytes, right? Not megabits, right? Correct?
Megabits, I think. Let's see.
Well, that's download speeds and upload speeds, but isn't transfer rate in megabytes? How about Mr. Apple? What does he say?
Is the B lowercase or uppercase? Oh, it is
uppercase.
It's uppercase. That would be megabytes. I think you're right in that case.
So I got a 2 terabyte drive on Amazon for $219. Now here's where here's the big
crazy.
Listen to this. So 340 gigs copied over to the drive from my M2 Mac Mini in 7.5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
On this drive. So this drive is it's in my bag and it's my go-to drive for throwing big data around. It's terrific.
Really cool.
That is so crazy.
I also find this really interesting that you use the Backblaze downloader, because I've found, my standard recommendation is order the Backblaze restore drive, and have them order it. They get it in the mail. Sometimes it's a couple days, sometimes it's a week, whatever. And you've got the drive, and then you clone to the folder, or copy to the folder, and then, reclaim the home folder and all that, and then you've got their data back. But this is a great method if you've got, like you said, a desktop machine that's just kind of connected. You let it download. Did you share, I might have missed it, how long it took approximately to download the 300 something gigs? Like days?
It was surprisingly fast. No. It was surprisingly fast. It was like within 4 hours, probably less than that, 4 hours. It was done.
Very cool.
And I just put in the chat, the private chat with you guys. It's just uploading right now, the actual image of the carbon copy cloner to that drive that we mentioned. So we'll put it in the show notes, but it's an unbelievable drive. And I got it for a client because he needed something really really fast that was external for photos, for large store of photos. And I was just shopping around and seeing these things on Amazon. So I ordered one up for him, and sold it to him at cost. And when I started to work with it, I was like, wow, this is like incredible. And it lights up too. It makes all these groovy, you know how with the new Mac OS, when you engage Siri, you get the multicolor, the glow thing around it. Well, this has a glow around the perimeter of the drive.
Oh, that's kind of fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
I actually like stuff like that.
Yeah. That's neat. Nice. All right. That's a great one, Jerry. I like the idea of just like now you can offer this as a service to clients. Like we'll download your data, you know, and get it to you like much more quickly than you'd have to otherwise wait for it on Backblaze. That's a great feature.
Yeah. We worked on this on the weekend, this past weekend, and I wouldn't have had that drive in my hand until Thursday of this week.
Right.
And he had his computer all ready to go because I worked on it on the weekend at 9 a.m. on Monday morning.
Amazing.
Yep.
Nice work, man.
And I think following on the heels of last week's show, I'm assuming you didn't charge him for the efforts. I want to. This is another patron tease. I'll tease this right at the very end.
It's a patron show. Yeah.
So, and I want to circle back to one quick thing here. So, Mike Kingsley in the chat mentioned earlier, following up on the two things I mentioned. You know, you want to use the allergy blocker and the deferral policy, but he also pointed out, check and make sure that your DDM or MDM policies are not set to keep current. So that's a very important step. I didn't mention that because I typically always cap out at like whatever OS I want. So my Sonoma update policies are at like, actually, I'll use the actual version number. So up until a couple of days ago, I was using, 14.6.9. Now I'm doing, 14.7. You can also do this in Adigy by saying 14.9.99. Like if you want it to just go to whatever version of 14 Apple might ever someday release, you can do that. You don't have to say keep current, so you
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, but I like to look at it and like check in the Slack and make sure you guys have tried it before I do and everything, and they and say, okay, now I'm ready for 14.7. There's no deal breakers in there, but you can also again say 14.9.99, and then it'll just stay with any version of 14. It will not go to 15. So that's how you prevent it from like doing a major upgrade in those kinds of policies. But yeah, thanks, Mike. That's a great important tip there.
So guys, I have a really important meeting in about a minute. So I got to run.
Is
it at the blah 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 hotel?
At the blah 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 hotel. Yeah,
I know that meeting.
All right. Well, the tail end of the public show here, I just want to talk about what we talked about at the patron show last week to tease that for our public show listeners. So when you're hearing this, the recent patron only show was Sam and I sharing some of our business updates. So maybe a little bit too vague for Jerry. He wanted a lot more specifics, which we'll probably get to in the next patron only show. Jerry had a big update about his educational client. Sam and I pressed Jerry on the thing we just alluded to, where Jerry's stacking discounts and probably negotiating against himself a little bit too much, and could stand to charge for his time and get paid for all of his efforts. I shared an example of iPad management, how I structure the monthly rate. Jerry and Sam shared their rates in comparison. I discussed wholesale versus retail pricing for an MDM offering to clients, and compared to sort of our value added pricing that we charge versus the kind of list price for these services. So it's a lot of details about business management, pricing, the value proposition to clients, client negotiations, even some wording about how we present things to clients, emails, responses, things like that. So like I said, there's a lot more there. So we'd really love your support, and you can get those patron-only episodes by going to commandcontrolpower.com, click on support, and you can join us and get access to dozens and dozens of patron-only episodes right there on your private podcast feed. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening and supporting us on Command Control Power, and we hope to see you next week.